Stuff in my car wash channel. Today's video is about changing the engine oil and filter on this 2008 Nissan Frontier that is equipped with a 4-liter 6-cylinder engine. And I realized that even though this truck was built in 2008, these steps will apply to all other Nissan pickups that have the same body style and 6-cylinder engine. This is one of our personal vehicles, and we live in Arizona. The town where we live, the weather is not very extreme. Sometimes it may get to 100 degrees. But some of the other towns that sometimes we have to drive to, like Phoenix or Yuma, the temperature can get as high as 115 and in extreme cases all the way to 120. So one of the main things we always try to do is to offer the best protection that we can to our vehicles when we know that we're going to drive them under the severe conditions. So this truck only sees Mobil 1 synthetic oil and premium filters, either Mobil 1 filters or, like in this case, the premium Bosch filter. That way we always know that no matter what climate we drive in, the engine is protected. And we only leave the engine oil 5,000 miles anyways. So in essence, we're changing this oil way before it's due. But because the expense is minimal compared to what it costs replacing an engine, it's not a big deal. So if you own one of these trucks and you would like to learn how to change your own oil, stay tuned and we'll show you the steps. So even though this may appear like a no-brainer, it's better if you drive your pickup up on ramps, and once the truck is up on ramps, make sure that the emergency brake is applied, transmission in park if it's automatic obviously, and for added safety, place some blocks on the rear tires, one in the front and one in the back of the tire, keep it from moving. If you don't have ramps, just lift it up with your floor jack and place some jack stands underneath the frame. Whichever method you use, you're going to be a lot happier if you give yourself enough room. So once the truck is up, it's time to start draining the oil. So place a clean drain pan underneath and remove the oil drain plug. The size that you will need to remove the drain plug is a 14mm socket and a ratchet. Just loosen it up first with the ratchet, and then once the drain plug is loose, finish removing it by hand. If you get the pan closer, then you won't make a mess. Now I don't use rubber gloves. You can if you want. If you haven't started this job and you're gonna go buy the stuff that you need, just get some rubber gloves when you buy your oil and your filter. While the oil is draining, inspect your gasket and your drain plug. If the gasket or the threads on the drain plug and even the head of the drain plug doesn't look very good, this is the perfect time to replace it. If you haven't bought your oil and your filter, the drain plugs are very inexpensive, so you could always buy one and have it available just in case. So just let the oil drain. Once it's done draining, then go ahead and install the drain plug back on. Also, if you loosen the oil filler cap, the oil will drain faster, just so you know. So once the oil is done draining and you have installed and tightened the drain plug, slide the drain pan to the front of the engine under this cover right here. And it's going to be necessary to remove this cover. The size of the bolts are 10mm. So there's the pan directly under it, right here. Don't drop them in your oil. Maybe if you're worried that you're going to drop the bolts in the oil, then don't slide the pan until you remove the bolts. Just a small piece of advice, depending on how careful you may not be. Same thing with the cover. Don't drop it in your oil pan. That'll be interesting. Okay, so here's the cover and the bolt. Okay, so once the cover is removed, if you look through the cavity, Nissan already engineered this pickup in a way that you won't have to remove the entire large cover. The small cover is all you'll need, and it won't make a mess because the oil will drain through here when you loosen the oil filter, because as you loosen the filter, some of the oil will start running down, so it will run down through here instead of getting all over the frame, and your drain pan should be able to catch it. Depending on who did your oil change last, if it wasn't you, you may need an oil filter wrench to get in there. If you did it and you didn't tighten it super tight, then you should be able to loosen it by hand. Now here's the cool thing. Even though the filter is going to drain through here, you can slide your arm from the passenger side, on the other side of this cover, and then you can loosen it that way. You may even need to use, depending on how tight it is, you may have to use both hands, but you can slide this one through here and use both. Okay, so once it's loose, then obviously you don't want to get oil on you, so slide your pan, it's right here. You can't see it, but it's right here. Just finish loosening the filter from the side so you don't get oil on you. And there you go, see? Nicely. The oil drains. Doesn't make a mess everywhere. It's a neat design. So just take the filter off. Just drain the oil in your pan. Okay, so even though this oil filter sits sideways, and because it sits sideways, it's not going to be possible to fill it up completely before installing it on the engine. It's good to fill it at least halfway. That way, obviously, when you're putting it on, you won't lose it all, and there'll be some oil there. Plus, lubricate the seal with brand new oil and install it on the engine. So if this is your first oil change and you don't know how tight this filter should be, rule of thumb is you thread it all the way until it's snugged. Once it's snugged, then you go a quarter to no more than half a turn once it's fully seated, and that way you'll be able to tighten it up to the correct specs and it won't come loose. Plus, it won't be so tight that it'll destroy the seal or it'll be nearly impossible to remove it next time. So, too loose is bad because you have the danger of the filter coming off, and you will lose all your oil, and of course, you destroy the engine. Too tight, not as bad as being too loose, but if you destroy the seal, same thing, it's going to create a leak, and that's not good either. So, snug it, and then you do a quarter to no more than half a turn, being the most, depending on how you feel when you're tightening this thing up. And you should be able to do that by hand. Well, depends on how strong you are, I guess. If you feel that you may not have the strength to do it, then use a filter wrench. So I'm going to go ahead and install this filter on. You may need a funnel. I know I don't. Okay, so it's ready to be installed. Alright, so the oil drain plug is on and it's tight. Oil filter is installed, and obviously make sure that the oil seal from the old filter doesn't stay on the engine when you remove it, otherwise the new filter will never seal because it'll be 2 gaskets instead of 1. So once both of those items are installed and they're installed correctly, then go ahead and remove the oil filter cap use a funnel to add the remaining of the 5-quart jug first. And once you do that, then remove the funnel, put the cap back on, and start the engine for a few seconds. If you have a gauge, make sure that the oil pressure gauge goes up as you start it. And like I said, only a few seconds, turn it off. Then look underneath and make sure there are no leaks around the filter or around the oil drain plug. If there are no leaks, put the small cover that you have to remove to get to the oil filter back on and lower the truck to the ground. Let it sit for a few minutes and check the oil level with your dipstick. Once you lower your truck to the ground and you let it sit for a few minutes, you had already added the 5 quarts when it was up on the ramp or its jack stands. So now you check your level with your dipstick and you're going to finish topping it off. And depending on how much oil you drained out, it's either going to take the entire quart or half of it. So the main thing is to, add half first and check the dipstick. And if you still need some more, then just keep adding until it's at the full mark. Now realize that this is a perfect opportunity to check all your other levels, check all your other fluid levels, your brake fluid, your power steering fluid, your coolant, washer fluid. Make sure that the belt is in good condition, make sure that all the hoses are in good condition. Same thing, when you were underneath, if something needs attention, then this is the perfect time to notice it and plan the repair in the near future. So now you know how to change the oil on your Nissan Frontier equipped with a 6-cylinder engine. Thanks for watching this video, and we'll see you next time.